so much for joining my Instagram Live. You voted and I delivered. Today's topic is about the top 3 brands that I've researched, or companies, shall I say, that have been successful and been around for a little over more than 10 years, and how these companies have been using branding and marketing strategies to stand out amongst the many companies in their industry. I know I have a lot of new followers, so I'll give you a bit of my background. My name is Nikita Waterman. I am a branding consultant, social media manager, and writer. I've been passionately doing this for the past 6 years. I spend a lot of time on apps such as LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok, and I'm giving my best advice, creating some sort of an online tribe/community and helping people one step of the way. I've worked from different companies and contracted my services to CBC News, Government of Alberta, Intuit QuickBooks, etc. I have blog features currently right now on CNBC Make It, HuffPost, and Glassdoor.com, to name a few. And I love what I do. I love getting in front of the camera and really helping each and every one of you with my best practices. So today, again, the topic is going to be about, hi, thanks for joining, Nikisha. The topic is going to be about the top 3 companies that have been successful and basically the branding and marketing strategies that has helped them to succeed at this time. So the first company on the list is Microsoft. I did some research for each and every one of you. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. So one of Microsoft's branding and marketing strategies is focusing on one brand across the board, meaning if Microsoft shows up on LinkedIn, for example, I actually follow the CEO of Microsoft just to see what he's talking about when it comes to technology, his thoughts on COVID and everything. And one thing I can say is this is actually true. The research is accurate. When the CEO comes up, he doesn't talk about oranges and tomatoes and healthcare. He talks about tech. He talks about products that are coming up when it comes to Microsoft, the connection and relationship that they have because they bought LinkedIn, etc. And across the board, they come up with the same message. They are innovative. They show that they know what they're talking about. They're consistent as far as the CEO showing up on LinkedIn, etc. So when you're running your businesses, you're starting your freelance opportunities, try to stick with one brand. If you're going to focus on branding for, let's take Takesha for example, if you're going to start branding for your graphic design, if you're going to try to pivot and move towards graphic and maybe talk about web design or talk about logo design, let people know ahead in advance. Always try to keep a consistent brand so that when people come on your page, they're not confused that you're kind of going all over the place with your topics. The other thing that makes Microsoft stand out is they are consistent on all of their social media channels. So what they say on LinkedIn, it might show up differently on Microsoft and Twitter because each platform, everybody has a different mindset. But the brand, the message, how they show up, the pictures they show, the tone of their content, it's consistently all the same. So for example, you won't see Microsoft on LinkedIn sounding professional, and then on Twitter, they're cursing and disrespecting people. It's consistently across the board. So when you're thinking about your Instagram engagement, Twitter, whatever it is that you are working on, try to keep it consistent across the board so people aren't confused about who you are, what you do, and what you're actually trying to achieve. The third thing that I found out about Microsoft and their branding and marketing strategy is they don't need to be present on all social media platforms. So I can sit here and say that of my time of being on social media, I do know that Microsoft is consistent on LinkedIn. They show up, again, with the CEO with his thoughts on things that are coming up in the industry, collaborations that they're working on with different companies, etc. But I don't see too much activity happening on Microsoft, and whoever's watching this right now, let me know. In the comments, let me know. But I can definitely sit here and say that across the board, Microsoft is consistent, and they're not always visible on each social media, and this is why I stress the point that you should be on the social media platforms that your customers and potential customers are located. So I did some research, and this is not basically based on your particular industry. Hi, thanks so much for joining. Today's topic is the top companies that are winning right now, and I'm just going over a brief review of their marketing and branding strategy and how you can use some of these best practices. I'm talking about Microsoft right now and coming down to the end of it. One of the things with Microsoft, again, is they're not on each and every social media platform. I'm not sure, but you can correct me, whoever is watching this. I don't believe that Microsoft has an account on TikTok, but I know that they are on LinkedIn because they own LinkedIn. They do have a presence on Facebook, etc. So keep that in mind. You don't have to be on every social media platform. Just be on the platform where your potential customers or your potential online tribe are located. If you're in some kind of marketing or sales, I've done research for you. The top apps where people are located, the top marketers are using across the board: YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Surprisingly enough, LinkedIn was in the middle, and TikTok was at the end. But a lot of us marketers or people in sales trying to generate that business development for our clients or for ourselves, we're using LinkedIn, we're using Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So check out those platforms for yourself. The second company that I want to talk about is Apple. We all know Apple, and the beautiful thing about Apple is, I don't know about you, but I rarely see an Apple TV commercial. I rarely see an Apple YouTube advertisement. And guess what? Here is why you don't see Apple all over the place. Apple focuses on lifestyle. So whenever you go on the Apple website, for example, I believe that it changes based on where you're located. So after this, if you can check it out yourself, on the bottom right corner, you can change the country, and I do believe that sometimes they actually change. If you go on apple.com, for example, for me, it'll shift me to the Canadian site, and the content is a little bit different than China or Australia or India, etc. So they focus on lifestyle when it comes to their advertising. I do remember seeing an Apple Music ad on YouTube, but again, it wasn't consistent. Thanks for joining. The topic today is the top 3 companies. I went over Microsoft and how they use a brand and marketing strategy, but right now I'm talking about Apple's brand and marketing strategy. Apple, they use innovation. They always use their product placement as a marketing, and we all know that before, unfortunately, the CEO of Apple, before he passed, he was pretty good at having these big events in San Francisco / Silicon Valley where he would do a release, and then all the journalists, all the bloggers were either there or they tuned in, and they didn't have to do much marketing because people marketed the Apple brand on blogs, on YouTube, on their social channels. So Apple is so sophisticated when it comes to their marketing and branding that they don't have to put too much into ads because people talk about their stuff so much, so it's like word of mouth. And it's very small percentage of companies that successfully know how to do this. But again, they focus on the lifestyle. So that ad I was trying to explain before I kind of got distracted is it was an advertisement of this girl in, I think, China, and she was walking in a busy street. She was dancing in the street, going like this with the headphones, and she was twirling around, and she was avoiding bumping into people, and then it was the same shot, it stopped, and it was her on the same street at night, but she was a little bit more calm. So that's like a lifestyle brand. So if you're doing your videos and you want to implement images of customers and people that look like your customers, try to make it simple, just of a model or somebody on your team with your product singing or dancing or making a joke, and that will be relatable to people. Another thing that Apple focuses on when it comes to their branding and their marketing is dreams. They focus on advertising that sells. You can make your dreams come true, and they, for some reason or another, they tie it into their technology. And when you can hit people mentally, emotionally, you can touch their heart and make them feel that with your product, anything can happen. Or with your product, you can go through your life and build memories with your product. And that's what Apple was so successful at doing, is they were able to make advertisements that made you feel that in order for you to build memories, you had to have an Apple iPhone, you had to have an Apple iPod, etc. So that's another strategy that you might want to think of for yourself. Again, and customer positive reviews and simple marketing. One thing I can say about Apple is I never sat back and read one of their blogs or looked at their website and scratched my head and had to call customer service or send an inquiry to find out what something means. It's grade 5 English, the images are easy to understand, the music is relatable, they often use trending music. So Apple Much love to you. You're really great when it comes to marketing and branding, and you're making people like me and everybody else want to follow down your path. The last company that I did research on that is the top and has been consistent over the past 10 years or more is Salesforce. Now, Salesforce, I love Salesforce. In my city, I actually went to a Salesforce tech event about 4 years ago in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and they held this event in a really nice hotel. So that's one thing Salesforce does is they have parties, they have events, and when I went to this event, my jaw dropped. When I got there, they had tables with different CRM software set up on tablets. People were kind. They had food that was served with wine and cheeses, and it was eloquent. It wasn't low quality or like in a Holiday Inn. It was one of the top 4 or 5-star hotels in Calgary. I got there, and the people at the tables that were showing their new software, they were friendly, and then they had a networking opportunity, so they weren't just like, come on in and we'll do demonstrations about our new Salesforce platform. They had people come in. You could play around with their platform, and then after that, they had a networking event, so that was about an hour, and then after the networking event, they stopped everything, and then they had public speakers at the event, people in tech that were Salesforce administrators and representatives in Calgary and from the U.S. come and talk about their companies. They even had companies who were startup companies from Silicon Valley and San Francisco that talked on stage about how they went from needing a new platform, getting Salesforce, and how their revenues and their employee experience and marketing just skyrocketed. So I can't really tell you to do the same thing. They have pretty big budgets. I'm not sure what they're going to do now because of COVID, but have a company event, have an online Zoom event, and just do the same thing that Salesforce did in a creative way that's direct to your company without copycatting. But party events, online events where, doing some kind of testing, and then after the testing, you open up the floor to network with people on a Zoom chat, and then after network, then you get, people who are successful using your products and services to talk, and not sell the products, but just talk about where they went from point A and where they went from point B after using your products and services. Another thing that Salesforce is really great at doing, in addition to that, is going to their competitors' page and looking at the comments of customers and critics, which is something that I say a lot to a lot of people is if you want to know where the conversation is going when it comes to not specifically your products and services, but your competitors or the industry, some of the best places to go are Twitter. And a lot of people scoff like, Twitter is oversaturated, but you don't have to post content on Twitter. Just do a hashtag health, hashtag, soaps, hashtag clothing designers, and everything that you need to succeed is on Twitter. Everybody from the 5-year-old who thinks they know everything about your industry, from the nerd to the socialite, they're talking. There's a brew of conversation on Twitter. The powerful conversations really do happen on Twitter, despite what anybody thinks, because we all know when something interesting happens with a celebrity, what happens? All the Gen Zs and all the critics and all the celebs, they start storming up a conversation on Twitter. So check it out. Other than Twitter, another great place to find out what's going on in your industry and what the top companies are doing so that you can kind of understand whether you should pivot to certain topics that they're talking about but put your spin on it. LinkedIn is a great place. A lot of people still think LinkedIn is a platform for job seekers, and that's what it was 5 years ago. But I'm going to tell you, I know I talk a lot about Instagram and TikTok. That's because I do surveys on my stories. Hi, thanks for joining, Ryan. The topic today is the top 3 companies that have been successful when it comes to branding and marketing. I kind of went through all Microsoft, Apple. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was thinking about Michael Jordan the other day, so I decided to pull it out. But the last company I'm talking about here is Salesforce, but that's okay. I'm going to upload this on my YouTube channel tomorrow morning. So, yeah, so Salesforce, if you want to get some content and idea about how Microsoft, Apple, Salesforce are doing, definitely check out LinkedIn. I was saying earlier, Ryan, I follow the CEO of Microsoft on LinkedIn. I check to see what he's talking about, and I just kind of want to have absolutely. And other platforms that you can kind of find out what's happening when it comes to, I know Fidacity, you're a business app. great conversations about technology and apps are happening every single day on LinkedIn. I see them in my timeline with my connections, and I also see them with based on posts that people like from conversations from Gary Vaynerchuk, or again the CEO of Microsoft, the CEO of other platforms like SoulCycle and all these other kind of like online companies that are pivoting to an online world right now. And yeah, that's it. That's it. Microsoft, Apple, and Salesforce. I always tell people, if you want to be successful, follow the people or the companies that are in your space that you admire and have been successfully doing what they're doing for the past 10, 20 years. These are the ones that came up. These are the ones that I look up to. And again, I know you just kind of joined, Ryan, but that's the end of it. However, I am open for question and answer. If there's anything that anybody on the line has seen, any of the videos or content that I shared, I'm here to give you some advice and answer any questions that are applicable to your company. Although today is the last day of this week for lives, Jobber is a great local store. Yeah, Jobber. I do remember Jobber. I'm trying to think, how did I find out about them? But let me know a little bit more about Jobber, because I feel like I don't know, seen some of their blogs before. But yeah, Jobber, Salesforce, Apple, Microsoft. I just think that there's certain companies that they just know how to hold their own. I'm not saying that they're not losing right now. I can say that Microsoft is winning because at some point they bought LinkedIn, and in the first half of the quarantine, the subscriptions for LinkedIn went up the roof. Netflix is another company. I know it's at the click of a button for most of us, but Netflix as well. The first half of the quarantine, their subscriptions went up, skyrocketed as well. So I really believe that the way of the world is technology. A lot of events across the globe have been closed for the summer, including here in Edmonton. So a lot of these companies, they have to be able to pivot online. Ryan says there are CRM for service-based businesses. Their head offices in, oh yes, Jobber. Sorry, Ryan. Yes, you're right. Sorry, I have so many different companies in my head because I study a lot of companies to give you guys presentations. I did go to a Jobber event last October or something like that, and the founders were there, and I actually purposefully sat in the front and I filmed them. You can probably go like 6 or 8 months down my timeline here on Instagram if you want. And I asked them a couple of questions, and I got them on camera, and they're pretty cool. Their story is amazing, and I'm glad that you brought that up, Ryan. Jobber is a local company here. The other individuals that are on the line, and they actually started out as developers. They met. Okay, I'll get to your question. I'll just go get quickly. They actually met at a Starbucks, I believe. They were freelancing, and they met there, and they kept bumping into each other at the same Starbucks. They left their jobs. They started Jobber, and I believe that's the story. So one of the questions here says, how about Warby Parker, the glasses company? I'm not too sure if I'm too familiar with them, but what I can do is I can do some research on them, and in my next live I can bring that up. But I know for a fact, I did a Google, and Microsoft seems consistent. Apple's consistent. I was saying earlier in the chat that Apple, their branding and marketing strategy has always been lifestyle, innovation, dreams, and they get most of their marketing from word of mouth. They've been one of the few companies that have not went too much when it comes to marketing and advertising. I think it's been a long while since I've seen an Apple ad, and that's because, unfortunately, Steve Jobs is no longer with us. That guy was a genius, but you and I both know that every time there was a product release, that man, all he had to do was stand on a stage somewhere in Silicon Valley or San Francisco and talk about a product and release, and all the journalists, all the bloggers, the vloggers, they all try to get in on that event, and they were the marketing platform. Like, all he had to do was stand on a stage because of his brand, because of his reputation. The people would come, the journalists would come, the vessel of communication would come, and that was it. And even till this day, it's still the same thing. Jobs is amazing to watch. Yeah, he was. I mean, that man, I know that a lot of people, I think I saw a documentary about him on YouTube, and some of the people that knew him were like, he was brass and he was rough around the edges, and I can understand how some people might feel that way, but at the same time, the guy was an innovative genius, and that guy is, there's just a couple of people that I look up to, Michael Jordan, Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett. Tony Robbins. There's just a few of them that I looked up. Oprah Winfrey, when it comes to the way they handle their business, since there's kind of so much coming up in the air, so many people are being exposed right now. But these are the people you want to follow. Don't copy them. Look at what they did and do it in your own way. You never want to be looked upon as a copycat. Love his book. Yeah, I haven't read it, but anytime I come across a Steve Jobs quote, I tell myself, wow, like I wish I had a best friend like that, because that he was light years ahead of time. And the fortunate thing, although he's not here with us, is he left his technology behind. And that's what I keep kind of saying with I did a recent post on LinkedIn, and the post was about how to build your brand like Michael Jordan or Steve Jobs or anybody that you admire that's been around for more than 2-3 decades. Is these guys are consistent. I've never seen anything come out on the tabloids about Steve Jobs, Michael Jordan, other than, Steve Jobs was brass. I mean, that was his personality, right? But look what he left the world. He left a technology that people can actually sit here and say when they're 50 and 60 years old, they have memories attached to the iPhone. They have memories attached to the iPad. They do. I have memories attached to my iPod, even though I don't use it anymore. But that's the kind of products and services that each and every one of you want to build, is that thing where you're kind of, when they're using their products and services, they're actually living with it. Like, they are so attached to it that they can't feel like they can have a better experience without the products and services that you offer. So, says he changed the world, like, for real. I agree with you. I was just talking to my dad before this live, and I was telling him I wish that I believe Steve Jobs might have done a book. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I wish that some of the top leaders before they pass, like the Oprah Winfreys and the Bill Gates and all them, I wish they could just write a book or do some kind of online course that's affordable about their marketing and branding strategy. They don't need the money to do that, but it would be so great if it came from their mouth versus an author that studied them all their life. Because, like, there are a lot of people that need that information. I pay a couple $100 to, do an online course based on Microsoft, the CEO's feedback, or Michael Jordan or Bill Gates' feedback or branding. And because imagine how much money you can get back from buying a book like that or buying an online course. Like, I wish that these guys could be that kind, but it seems like the only one that's consistent from a brand perspective is like Gary Vaynerchuk. He showed up a little bit more than some of the people that I just said, but the two other people that I mentioned, those are billionaire status people. They don't really have time to be on the live every morning, but yeah, I hope this helped. You voted and I deliver. I do stories all the time, 24 hours in advance before I go live. I have 4 options, and you guys can choose from what you want to see. Whatever gets the 50-50 divide or the most votes, that's what I do with my live. I'll be going live all summer until September 22nd. 5 p.m. on Fridays and 6 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time on Monday through Thursday. So that's it. I'm going to upload this. You guys can check it out if you'd like, but I'm definitely going to go get some ice cream and take it easy. It's been a long week, and thank you so much for showing up. Thanks for your time, and if you have any questions or anything that you want to share with me offline, feel free to send a message. Hope you guys have a good weekend. Bye.